Hello everyone, how are you going? And welcome to what I believe and who I believe is the most controversial Canadian out there, as every single time I read the comments about JJ, it's always a this or there's always a that or whatever it may be, but either way, this time we're checking out the dumb Canadian foods.
Now, longtime viewers of this channel may recall that about a year ago I did a video on Canadian foods in which I said that Canadian foods are just American foods since Canada and the United States are culturally indistinguishable, which is fine. It's fine. But people don't like hearing that kind of thing about Canada. They want to hear about how Canada is quirky and fun and different. So whatever, we will look at some of the different quirky Canadian foods we have up here. Now, no list of dumb Canadian foods would be complete without perhaps the dumbest food of all, which is poutine, which you can see here. Poutine is basically just French fries that have been covered with goopy cheese and gravy. The thing about poutine is that if you don't eat it really quickly, it solidifies into this big congealed clump like this.
No. Immediately he's just going after blood, and it wasn't even just about the poutine, it was about every single thing from the USA to the quirkiness to then just attacking directly Canada's favorite dish. Oh, I cannot believe that he has the balls to be able to do that. That is, he knows his marketing, he knows his demographic, and I'm sure he knows how to stir the pot, because that is just outrageous what he's just done there. But no, I would love to know what he means by Canadian foods are just USA foods, or more so I would love to know, are they interchangeable? Can you say that USA foods are Canadian foods, or does it not work that way around? Because I mean, if it doesn't, that's certainly going to rile a whole bundle of people up. But I mean, maybe it's just because you go, well, you're the little brother, you know, you just have this and that, it's not really anything different, you just stole it from the USA. And even the fact that he's got a USA flag right there, he knows how to ruffle some feathers, that's for sure. But anyway, poutine is already the first one on the chopping block, and let's just, I mean, I guess we can see everyone else, but yeah, let's just strap ourselves in.
This is appetizing Canadian food. In Newfoundland, in the far east of Canada, they have their own take on poutine, which is called Newfoundland fries, which is basically when you just take a big glump of like Thanksgiving stuffing from the turkey, and you just pile that in there too. The other infamously dumb Canadian thing is these things. These are ketchup-flavored potato chips. I personally find these to be very repulsive. I remember when I was a kid, you would sometimes get those multi-packs of little small-sized potato chips, and I would never want to eat the ketchup ones because they were so disgusting. They're just like big red chips doused in, I'm sure, a ketchup-like byproduct. See, and they're really sweet because, as you well know, ketchup is just like 90% sugar. Now,
wait, what? I mean, look, he can go on and say that he doesn't like them, and I have to sit here and say that I've never had them, so I don't know, but I definitely didn't expect them to be sweet. I mean, I feel as though every chip in the world should be a savory product. I mean, I guess ketchup, tomato sauce, it's got the tomato sweetness, but not sugary kind of sweetness that he's almost describing there. I can't even imagine a sweet chip. What would you even be having that is? That's kind of like a, I don't know, what would be a sweet chip comparison? I really can't think of a single thing. If nothing else, at least it does then explain how they're going to be Canada's #1 export into the USA, because everyone knows that the USA is partial to a bit of a sugary thing, and if it can just be mixing both sugary and savory into one packet of ketchup chips, then it's going to sell like hotcakes. And sadly, I've never had the pleasure of trying one, or apparently the displeasure, or whatever you want to be calling it, because I guess some people will probably not like it. That's just going to be what it is, but man, that's the first time I've heard someone not like it.
Now, a while ago, the National Post, which is a famous Canadian newspaper, did a poll asking Canadians what was their favorite Canadian snack treat. And the thing that won the poll was these things, which I do not even know how you say the name of this. So the name is Joslouis, which seems like it would be like Joss Louis, but I think it's a French-Canadian word, so it's probably like Jo Louis or some such. So they're basically little chocolate pies, and on the inside they've kind of got this, I don't know, creamy goo of some sort. I've never had them, so let's see what they taste like. It has a chocolate sort of outer crust. On the inside, it just tastes like a generic white, Safeway cake sort of batter. And then it has generic Safeway cake icing as the filling inside. So if you want all of the culinary thrills of attending a child's birthday party, I recommend buying one of these Joslouis cakes, because they more or less taste the same.
I mean, to be fair, I'm sure that it's just going to be hitting the nail on the head for so many different people, just going, oh yeah, actually, let me just have a trip down nostalgia lane and just go, oh, actually, back to my childhood birthday. I remember having these all over the country, no matter where you are, no matter what age you were. You knew that you were just able to break out these bad boys and at least have a semi-decent birthday party. And to be fair, he also didn't say that he hated them. He just said that they were maybe a little bit generic. And I guess in my mind, they're falling somewhere between maybe a Woolies mud cake and a wagon wheel, something like that. I mean, I feel as though we've also have something like it, but I don't know the last time I would have had it, and definitely have not had that French-Canadian word, Jean-Louis, definitely not. To be fair though, like I said in passing, I'm still just blown away by the fact that it's not the Nanaimo bar. I mean, it's kind of a Nanaimo bar in terms of its colour and ingredients, but that definitely looks like it's some kind of baking, and there's so many other things going on there, and maybe it's just a bought versus baked thing, but man, I've just known the Nanaimo bar to just be the king of the hill, and apparently not.
So in addition to picking foods that are sort of stereotypically Canadian, I was also thinking about foods that have names of Canadian places in the title, such as this stuff here, which is Saskatoon Syrup. Now, Saskatoon syrup is some sort of syrup that is made of the Saskatoon berry, which is a berry that is found in Saskatchewan, which is a province of Canada, perhaps best known for being name dropped in a Muppet song.
Hey, Ellie, where have you gone? Send someone to fetch us. We're in Saskatchewan.
I have never been to Saskatchewan because it is a province with no redeeming qualities, and I'm unfamiliar with what their syrups taste like, so let's just try a swig of this. Tastes like blueberries, but maybe a little bit more sugary, a little bit more rich. Okay, next we have perhaps the most iconic...
Hang on. That was just a blatant attack on the entire province. Just going, okay, I mean, your syrup's not half bad, it's a little bit richer, but everything else is best known for being in the Muppets and barely name-dropped in the Muppets, and I believe also incorrectly name-dropped in the Muppets. Regardless, I've definitely heard of that before and definitely heard of the berry, but besides him saying it tastes kind of like a blueberry, there is just no way I can even begin to imagine what that tastes like, because I'm imagining maple syrup in the form of a blueberry, and maybe that's exactly what it is, but I don't really get how that mixes. I mean, actually, to be fair, you can get maple syrup with blueberries on pancakes, and I guess that works, and so it's not the most far-fetched idea in my mind.
Okay, next we have perhaps the most iconic food of the city of Montreal, which is a Montreal-style bagel. I am not a bagel connoisseur, so I cannot tell you exactly how a Montreal-style bagel is better than any other kind of bagel. To spread on the Montreal-style bagel, I bought this Winnipeg-style cream cheese. I do not know what Winnipeg-style cream cheese is like, but if it is anything like the dreadful city from which it emerges, I imagine it is quite boring. Yep, that is certainly cream cheese. Okay, and so next we have...
just absolutely picking all of these cities apart. Honestly, I know that internally Australia just likes to have a bit of a feud, but I feel as though he's actually just picking all of these provinces and cities apart just for every little thing that they can possibly be giving. I mean, let's say, okay, Northern Territory, hot, dry, humid, or not dry, but yeah, hot and humid, and yes, you can see crocodiles, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's up to you, and if you want to drive fast, maybe go to the Northern Territory as well. No one really hates it besides it just being in the middle of nowhere, and then I guess if we go and just step over into Queensland, then I mean, I'd say that the people aren't the greatest, but I feel as though every single city on the East Coast says the same thing about every single other city on the East Coast, and so besides that, they've got some pretty decent land, they've got some pretty decent sites, like the Great Barrier Reef is off their coast, and really, they're all right, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. They're still Australian, where this just feels like you're picking on them for their bagels and their cream cheese, what they're just solely proud about. Like, that's really taking it to the core.
Okay, and so next we have the traditional Canadian pastries. Now, when I was a young Canadian boy, I remember that my grandmother would often make these for us at Christmas time. So there are basically two iconic Canadian pastries. We have the butter tart and we have the Nanaimo bar.
Yes.
Every list of Canadian foods you will see on YouTube or any sort of internet slideshow will always contain these two things. They are very iconic. The Nanaimo bar is named after the city of Nanaimo, which is in British Columbia, which is where I live. It sort of has a chocolatey, grainy layer, and then it has like a layer of some sort of suety icing goo, and then it has a thin layer of chocolate on top of that. What I associate them most with is when you're going to a buffet, and then they will always have the dessert table at the buffet, and they'll always have little squares and things to eat. And they will always, in a Canadian buffet, there will always be Nanaimo bars at the end. And the other thing is a butter tart, which is just a kind of flaky pie tart shell, usually very thick, that is full of a kind of goo that is made of sugar and butter and usually has raisins in it as well. All right, what next?
He can just pick on those things all day long, but to be honest, I feel as though both of those things will go down an absolute treat in any Australian bakery. You know, we're all just suckers for those kind of things, like you said, just squares of desserts, because we have the caramel slice, we have the vanilla slice, we have plenty of other mixtures of that, and then we even have lamingtons, for goodness sake, that's another square item, let alone the fact that the butter tart is basically just a meat pie mixed with a custard tart. I mean, how could you go wrong, really? I feel as though these are just missing items on every Australian bakery's list, and if they were just to make them, especially if they're no bake, for goodness sake, just get them on that and let me try them, just please. There are so many things that he can call dumb, and he can just say it's this and that, and he grew up with, but really, I just want to try and just get my own opinion on it.
All right, what next? This is Canadian-style rye bread. Now, I am also unfamiliar with how Canadian-style rye bread is different than any other kind of rye bread. So Canadian rye is maybe white. I associate rye bread as usually being rather dark in color. As you can see, I have done absolutely no research for this because I assumed that my inherent Canadianness would provide enough knowledge unto itself, which is clearly not the case. A lot of traditional Canadian foods of this sort are not actually things that are that common in Canadian life. You kind of have to go out of your way to be aware of this. So Canadians obviously like their maple syrup, and Canadians like maple flavored everything. You can get lots of candies and whatnot. But this was the first time that I had seen this maple flavored bread.
Ooh, let me just have a look at that. That just looks like, ooh man, if you could just get that in the form of, just raisin toast, but raisin toast, but that's maple raisin toast. Is that what it is? Maple loaf. There's French on there, but so I don't really know, but extra thick sliced maple loaf. Yeah, okay, then that is definitely what we're going to be wanting, it, especially because it looks like there's some kind of raisins or sultanas or something in there as well. And so, oh man, I mean, I got to give it to Canada. The maple syrup thing is just unmatched. I mean, there is a reason that they have their oil reserves as maple because it's worth more, but they can even do it. And it's just, everybody wants it. You know, the world could run out of oil and it would be fine, like in terms of overall, but if we ran out of maple, the entire world would crumble within a week, surely.
This is some sort of stale toast that has little infused chunks of maple sugar in it. It would be really good to make this into French toast, so FYI. Now, I live in British...
Right, hang on. How are you getting infused maple bits? I don't really know what solid maple is. Is it just kind of crystallized? But that didn't look crystallized. That just looks... I don't know, how would you describe it? Like I said, it just looks like sultanas or something in there, and so... If you're having solid maple mixed in with maple bread, or maybe that is actually where the maple is coming into it, I'm a little bit confused, but I'm on board. I'm on board for sure.
Now, I live in British Columbia, short for British Columbia, BC. A lot of Asian people live in British Columbia, a lot of Japanese people. Over the years, they've come up with a distinctive Canadian style of sushi, which is known as the BC roll. The BC roll contains barbecued salmon skin. The salmon is a very iconic fish in the Pacific Northwest, which is where British Columbia is located. Frankly, I prefer the California roll, but still, it's fun that Canada has its own distinctive sushi, right? Now, Canada is a big potato-producing nation, which...
He just loves to keep digging himself a hole, and I swear, the deeper it gets and the more it echoes, it just the more he loves it. He just loves hearing himself just dig that hole deeper and deeper and deeper, just going... well, you know what, Canada? I just love the USA's more, and that is why he has a USA flag right there. Oh, it's just brutal. It's his own country, and he's just brutal about it. But hey, I like sushi, and so I'll try it. I don't know about, I've never heard salmon skin sushi before, and it also looked like there was other things on it. Let me just see. He did it, yeah. Also, it's roe, cucumber, and salmon skin. Okay. Look, I guess I'll give it a go, but I've never had it before, that's for sure.
Now, Canada is a big potato-producing nation, which I suppose is probably where the poutine thing maybe comes from. And the two most economically useless parts of the country are the ones that produce the two most iconic types of potato. So we have the Prince Edward Island potato, which comes from the province of Prince Edward Island, which is this tiny island in the Atlantic Ocean. Potatoes is perhaps the only thing that the tiny province is known for. And then we also have Yukon Gold potatoes, which are potatoes that, if I cut it open, you can see have this distinctive yellow flesh, much like the gold in the Yukon.
To be honest, I feel as though I have actually seen both of those potatoes before, and I'm not too sure if it is those potatoes in particular, but I also wouldn't be too surprised, just given the heritage of the two countries just both coming from the UK. I can only imagine that also because potatoes are so hardy, they're a root vegetable, that they're going to be able to be grown in both countries. And so even though we might not have the Yukon Gold being grown in Yukon or the Prince Edward Island potato grown in Prince Edward Island, maybe we just have the, I don't know, the Ballarat potato and the this potato. I have no idea, but I've definitely seen the purple one, and then I feel as though all of our potatoes otherwise are just that kind of goldy color. I mean, I guess if I do come and look at, oh, here we go, where is it? We got white and red. Okay, well that is different to gold and purple for sure, but they are definitely similar in color, and that is what I was, I guess, envisioning. But they also are Australian grown, so that's where I'm wondering, how different are these potatoes genetically, and how different are they from where they came from in the first place? Because man, they've got to be close for sure.
So there you have it, 10 stupid Canadian foods. Now, if you are a Canadian watching this and feel I have made some horrible omission in my cornucopia over here, please let me know in the comments below. And as usual, if there's anything else about Canada you'd like to learn more about, let me know in the comments below as well, because as much as my love affair with my own country is lukewarm at best, I do enjoy sharing these kinds of things with other people. And that about does it for now.
Oh man, he just knows how to get people hook, line, and sinker. He's just reeling every single person in, from the boot to oh, I don't know, lukewarm, everything about it, just hating on Nanaimo, hating on Yukon, hating on Prince Edward Island, going, they're not known for anything besides potatoes, where everyone will just go, no, they're known for this, and they're known for their red earth, and they're 3 people that live there. I mean, I guess if nothing else, perhaps it's a little bit refreshing to hear that there is actually a Canadian that does not like every single thing on this table, or even just looking down there and the fact that he brought out poutine. I cannot believe that he brought that out of the bag. Either way, eventually I would like to try all of these, because they all do sound good in their own way. Whether it just caters to your palate or not is a completely different story, but hey, none of them seem as though they're particularly going to kill you, and so just sign me up.